Well, folks, I want to thank you for hanging around and coming to part 2 of the value video. I didn't realize it'd get this long, so part 2 is about pronghorn and mule deer, or mule deer and pronghorn, whichever order you want to put them in. We did in video 1, archery elk and rifle elk. What is the place where you get the best value for your money? I apologize that I didn't realize how long it would be, so in review, I told the editors, hey, let's cut this. Let's make this 2 videos a little more consumable. So, as always, these videos are brought to you by Go Hunt. If you look at this, you're going to see a ton of information here that you can find out at Go Hunt. If you go out there, use promo code Randy, they'll put $50 in your gear shop account. Mad money when you sign up using promo code Randy. But let's get into mule deer and pronghorn. You're going to see some states got added here that weren't in the elk one, mostly Oregon. You're going to see that I haven't broken out for have not broken it out between rifle and archery for each species. So I hope you get some value out of this. Kind of like in the first video, you have to take your priorities of what you want to hunt and your budget, and they have to line up because we want you to go hunting this year. 2024 is not a year to sit at home. So hopefully this explanation, maybe it's my opinion. Yeah, it's probably more my opinion than an explanation, but hopefully it helps you understand how you get the most value out of what you want to do. And I'd be interested in your feedback of what you think about my thoughts on the greatest value for mule deer and for pronghorn. Here we go. And now I'm going to switch gears from elk. Hopefully we've covered the elk side of things. And we're going to jump into mule deer. And I'm going to admit right up front, I'm not a mule deer fanatic, right? I'm not like some of these guys who are just hardcore mule deer hunters. I wish I was. Marcus in our office is a hardcore mule deer hunter. You probably know some people. Maybe you're a hardcore mule deer hunter. And those folks get after it. I mean, they go to unbelievable extent for chasing big mule deer bucks. I mean, it makes complete sense. I mean, the country they live in, they're beautiful animals, they're cool looking animals. I get it, I just haven't got that bug. So people might disagree with what I end up doing here. And I'm not separating archery and rifle for mule deer. I'm putting it all in one batch. And I'm not going to go through the costs over here in the right-hand column, but the right-hand column is your required non-resident license, your application fee, and your tag fee. In other words, this is what it would cost if you drew one of the limited entry tags. All right, mule deer. Arizona, unless you're an archery hunter, you don't have a chance of anything being short-term or mid-term. That's your only chance for short or mid-term. Every rifle hunt, every muzzleloader hunt in Arizona for mule deer, you're going to be in it a long time before you draw. My son Matthew has 24 points, and I don't even think he's in the running yet as a non-resident. So, Colorado. Oh man, Colorado has so many mule deer options. Yeah, they had a really hard winter in 22 and 23, and that went into my consideration when I did my, quality, what I think is the greatest value. But Colorado, if you're an archery hunter or you're a muzzleloader hunter or you're willing to hunt the second rifle season, oh man, you still got a lot of options in Colorado, both what I would call short-term and what I'd call mid-term options. Very, very good options there. Now, if you're wanting some of these special third season hunts, especially the fourth season hunts and some of the high country alpine early rifle hunts, you're going to be in there for a long time. You're going to be burning a lot of points. So just keep that in mind. Idaho, again, kind of like elk, they do December 1st by each district. There's X number of non-resident deer tags. Whew, those go on sale. Since they put us on a district quota, even though the total number hasn't changed, they split them out by district. They're gone on December 1st. Pay attention to the return tags. Now, if you're willing to archery hunt in Idaho, you have some midterm options in their controlled hunts, and maybe even some of the muzzleloader hunts. But most of their really good, I'll call it above average even, mule deer hunts are going to be long-term options. In other words, draw odds of less than 10%. So Montana, Montana has quite a few mule deer, even though not as many as it used to have, but it's very pressured hunting, and you're gonna turn over a lot of stones trying to find an older buck. So general tag, you know what? For the lucky people, they'll draw every 0 to 4 years. In fact, I would say that everybody is probably going to draw 0 to 4 years, at least right now. I don't see that changing a whole lot because, well, we'll get into it in the Montana video. It's a weird point structure that kind of causes me to say that. So Montana, yeah, probably has an overrated reputation for mule deer just because of the number of mule deer we have. And a lot of people see a 3.5-year-old buck, they're like, man, yeah, that'll do. And that's great. But most people would say Montana is an opportunity state for mule deer. Nevada, oh man, it's great mule deer hunting, but unless you're hunting archery or muzzleloader, everything is going to be long term. It just is. That's just how it is. But the big reason for that, Nevada, and why Nevada seldom makes the value proposition list is because Nevada went from the mid-1980s to having 265,000 mule deer to now having, depending on the year they measure it, anywhere from 70 to 80,000 mule deer. So they only have about 30% of the mule deer they used to have. The other 70% due to habitat, drought, invasive, everything else is gone. So their tag numbers are down by more than 70%. So just because of the difficulty of drawing, it makes it really hard to put Nevada too high up on that list. But if you draw, you're gonna have a great hunt. New Mexico, again, if you want draw odds that are in the 20%, you're gonna have to go to some of the easy, less popular archery hunts. If you want draw odds that are, in that anywhere, I'd say 12 to 20%, you're probably going to be looking at some of the archery hunts and some of the muzzleloader hunts. But if you want some of those really high quality hunts for mule deer up in the northwest corner of Wyoming or New Mexico, you're going to be waiting a long time. Yeah, it's going to be really, really tricky to draw. Maybe you'll be the lucky one. They don't have a point system. So that adds into the short-term, mid-term, long-term effect, right? And if you don't have a point system, are you really even able to plan or prioritize something for short, mid, and long term? Probably not. All right, you'll see I threw Oregon in here. Oregon, it's got decent mule deer hunting. It's just so darn hard for a non-resident to get a tag. But I threw it in there. There are some archery hunts that they're pretty busy. Gonna be a lot of people. They're not known for their quality, but it's an option. And then again, if you're looking for something middle of the road, there's still some so-so archery and muzzleloader hunts. If you're looking for a limited entry rifle hunt in Oregon, man, you're gonna be here a long time. Utah. All right, Utah has a weird deer system. They have general tags, which don't ask me why they call them general tags when it's a limited entry draw, but that's what they call them. They just give away a lot more of them in their different districts and units. And then they have this thing called limited entry tags. You gotta draw them both, but they have a preference point system for the general tags and a bonus point system for the limited entry tags. And we get into that in the Utah video. But because of that, the way that works, there are some general units that you can draw with 4 points or less as a non-resident in Utah. And if you're looking for something that's 5 to 9 years, maybe you'd look out in some of their lower demand muzzleloader or archery hunts you'd draw. But as a general rule, any limited entry hunt, any rifle hunt, limited entry rifle, or probably even limited entry archery, you're probably going to be waiting a long time in Utah, right? You hear about the Ponce-a-Gun, you hear about the Henry Mountains, you hear about these places in Utah, and it's great hunting. But there are guys with 28 points who aren't even in the running. It's like, that is definitely a long-term strategy. So then we get to Wyoming. Wyoming has a little bit for everybody when it comes to mule deer. They manage things for non-residents on a region basis, like A and C up in the northeast, and then they get like W and G and H way over in the west. And so a lot of those eastern and central units, the general hunts, you can draw every second year, every third year, even in the regular draw. Now, in the special draw, you can draw them even better. But you'll see that big price increase is happening this year, difference between regular and special. And then if you are looking at, so some of these central and eastern general units, you can draw short term. If you want to draw like way over in western Wyoming, general deer tags, those are going to be 5 to 9 years right now. And with the hard winter they had, tag numbers in 2023 went, and it's going to be quite a few years before tag numbers can start working their way up. You're going to be looking, it's completely possible that eventually those really high demand western Wyoming hunts, because tag numbers are so low right now for non-residents, could move over to 10 plus points to draw. If you want one of the limited entry, the quality limited entry hunts in Wyoming, yeah, you're probably going to have to burn a lot of points. Unless you draw one in the random draw, right? But, drum roll, boom. Is there a better mule deer state, even in a down year, than Colorado? No, when you factor in tag availability, the number, the season dates, when I say number, I mean number of deer and number of tags, the season dates, the amount of public land. Colorado is the home, the king of mule deer if you're a non-resident. I know the Colorado guys are like, shut up. It's just a fact. I don't care what data you analyze, it's probably going to lead you to thinking about Colorado. So back to when I said priorities, if your priority is mule deer, you're probably going to be allocating your budgets to Colorado. Now, number 2, even after a really hard winter, is Wyoming. Because they have such a great mix between limited entry and general tags. They have so much public land. They manage their herds so that they don't hunt them in the rut, so the age class gets to be pretty good. It's just too bad that they took such a beating in the winter of 2022 and 2023. And that extended somewhat to northwest Colorado, but not to the degree in Wyoming. And that allows the ranking, in my mind, for the value of your money if you're a mule deer hunter. Colorado, Wyoming, and then Idaho. And the reason Idaho is because it's way easier to draw. There are people who go there every year, every other year, however often they can get a general tag, and they shoot really damn nice bucks on public land. They do. They work hard at it. They're excellent hunters. They're in great shape. So I take all that, and I could have thrown Arizona in there, but you're never going to draw. I could have thrown Nevada in there, but you're likely never going to draw. I could have thrown Utah in there, but you're probably not going to draw. So I think Idaho is number 3 as far as a value proposition. Maybe I'm wrong. You might have a different opinion, like I said. If you just want to go shoot, 3.5-year-old bucks, 2.5-year-old bucks, that'd be a completely different value proposition that you'd rank them at. But I'm trying to put yourself in both my shoes and what I think most of you are in based on the feedback we get. And over here again on the right-hand column, you can see where I put which states are the easiest to draw. And that's mostly a function of how many tags are available. All right, we're getting to the last one. We're getting to pronghorn, and you all know that I'm like a pronghorn junkie, right? I can't explain it. I got a lot of explaining to do about it, but not in this video. Short-term, mid-term, long-term, Arizona, forget about it. It's strictly long-term. I don't care if you're talking archery. I don't care if you're talking muzzleloader. I don't care if you're talking rifle. You're going to be in it for the long haul in Arizona. And then we get to Colorado. I think Colorado is one of those overlooked states for pronghorn. If you're willing to archery hunt, you can go there. That's your short-term plan. If you're willing to muzzleloader hunt and maybe a few rifle hunts, I didn't put rifle in there. You could go to Colorado. But if you're strictly a rifle hunter, now that they put the non-resident cap on non-residents in 2023, you're rifle hunting. That's just how it is. You'll see over here, I got the costs again. And again, that's everything, tag, license, application fees, the whole works. Idaho, really not known as much of a pronghorn state, but there's quite a bit of pronghorn hunting there. Archery is possibly a short-term option, but midterm, and most of their rifles are going to be long-term, but there's a few kind of marginal, like on the fringe of population numbers, where maybe in Idaho you could do it 5 to 9 years if you got lucky. I mean, again, no point system. Montana, they have what's called the 900 archery tag. It's the easiest non-resident tag to draw for pronghorn in Montana. So you can draw that every 2 or 3 years as a non-resident. Again, kind of like Idaho, midterm, long-term, you're talking rifle hunts. Montana, we don't even have any specific muzzleloader hunts that I'm aware of for pronghorn. Nevada, there's not many hunts in Nevada that would be short-term, but every once in a while, there's a few of those archery hunts that get returned or the odds get a little better, but it's iffy. If you're wanting a midterm option in Nevada, okay, you better be happy with archery or muzzleloader. You're probably not going to find any rifle tags where your odds are better than 10%, even with a ton of points. So, rifle hunters in Nevada, you're looking at long-term options, double-digit points to be in the running. New Mexico shook everything up a few years ago, and now they have no hunts. I don't care, archery, muzzleloader, anything. Nothing is short-term in New Mexico. And I'm starting to think maybe I should say there aren't even any archery hunts. In fact, I'm going to go into my spreadsheet here and say there are no midterm options in New Mexico. I thought about saying there's some archery hunts, but looking at last year's odds, there's not even any archery hunts anymore. So if you're going to New Mexico, you probably are just going to have to beat some crazy odds, and I don't care if we're talking rifle, muzzleloader, or archery. It's a tough go in New Mexico anymore because they restructured their hunts and they restrict non-residents to 6%. Well, some hunt codes don't, 6% doesn't even round up to get us a tag. So big change happened there a few years ago, and that really flipped the table as New Mexico as an option for non-resident hunters. Oregon got good pronghorn hunting over in the east and southeast portion of the state. You don't have any type of short-term option, possibly a midterm option for archery, but most everything is a long-term option in Oregon because they give away such a small percentage of their tags to non-residents. Utah kind of looks a little bit like Nevada. Maybe you could luck out and do a short-term option if you're an archery pronghorn hunter. Midterm, you're getting there with archery, maybe muzzleloader, but if you're a rifle hunter, you're going long-term. There just aren't any tags that have really good draw odds, even with a pile of points. So we get to Wyoming. I've been giving Wyoming a lot of accolades because they do a great job of managing, and they don't have millions of residents, right? So there's not as much resident pressure in Wyoming as it's the least amount of resident pressure of any Western state. And that's why historically they've always been able to be so generous to non-residents, but that's changing. As drought, as winters, as other things knock their herds down, their residents are asking for better allocation to them. So we saw it in moose, goat, sheep, bison last year. We might see it in deer, elk, and pronghorn in future years. So be paying attention to that. But when we get to Wyoming, if you want to go every year, every other year, every third year, you probably can if you're willing to hunt the hard access places in the eastern part of the state. It's really hard to gain access because it's mostly private. Now, if you say, okay, I'm willing to wait 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, okay, you can come west a little bit in some of the central units. If you're gonna hunt like they call it the red desert, but I'm talking anything in the west, southwest part of Wyoming, you're probably gonna burn 10 points. But you know what? There's a reason why there's that much demand, because the quality is there. And the price in Wyoming, whew, man, that's an awful lot this year for a special pronghorn tag. $1,260, am I seeing that? $1,267. Yowzer. That's a lot of money. The cheapest one, Montana, $238. So what did I end up with as what I call your best value if you're looking for pronghorn? It's not even a question. Wyoming is number one. Just like Colorado was for mule deer, you don't even have to give it any consideration. Number two, I'd say Nevada. And people would be like, what? Nevada's pronghorn numbers are actually doing pretty well. And the quality and the amount of public land is unbelievable. If you draw a pronghorn tag in Nevada, you are going to have one of the best chances ever to shoot a really, really high quality buck. And you're not going to see hardly anything for no trespassing signs. I wish it was a little easier to draw, because then it might be bumping with Wyoming for number one. Montana's number three, just because we give away a lot of non-resident tags. Tons of hunting pressure. The fact that we give away a lot of non-resident archery tags puts that value proposition there. Just know if you come to Montana, whatever the winters are in Wyoming, a lot of times they're even worse in Montana. And so antelope being fragile, Montana pronghorn numbers are not anywhere near what they were in the late 90s, early 2000s. But I think it's number three, just because of the ease of getting a tag. Now, you could have easily thrown Colorado in there. It wouldn't take much of a debate for me to flip that to be Wyoming number one, Colorado number two or three, and move Nevada and Montana somewhere else. But anyhow, folks, that is my assessment of where I think you are going to get the greatest value in your application dollars. I don't want you to think about, well, this is what Randy did or valued. Try to put yourself in your own shoes with your own budgets and think about all these considerations that I mentioned. That is what's going to get you to meeting your priority, right? What do we call this? Priorities, values, and dreams. You have to have a priority. You have to have a budget of time, and you have to have a budget of money and get the most out of that. So anyhow, I hope that this video was helpful. They're my opinions, 30 years of doing this, multi-state applications, hunting a lot of these different states for different species. And it also reflects the fact that I'm a tightwad accountant, right? I was a CPA for 35 years. And I put a lot of emphasis on where do I get the greatest return, the greatest value for my investment. So spend your money wisely, prioritize what you want, and build your application plan around that for your first, second, third priority, and for your short, mid, and long-term strategies. And then keep an eye out. We're going to probably do that video on moose, goat, sheep, and I'm going to probably talk you out of that, unless you have a lot of budget. Because I'd rather see you take that budget and allocate it here. This is where you're going to get a better return. But I think it's worthwhile doing that video just to explain it and give my experience in it, and the fact that between me and my son, we've applied for over 300 sheep tags and we've never drawn one. That's enough. Maybe you don't even got to watch that video to just say, well, I'm not even interested. But anyhow, I hope that you have good luck in the draws this year, and I hope that 2024 is the year that you get that tag that you've identified to go on that hunt that is one of your dreams. Thanks for watching.